For Urban Entrepreneurship class, University of Michigan, we're here with April Anderson, the founder of Good Cakes and Bakes. Having a lot of success here in Detroit. We've been coming here for, I don't know, eight years. Yeah, this is great. So April's going to tell us about Good Cakes and Bakes, a little bit of history, what she's doing, show us around a little bit, and we'll be ready for the in-person tour.
Right. So hi, my name is April Anderson. I am the co-owner and co-founder of Good Cakes and Bakes. People always say founder. I'm not founder. Co-founder of Good Cakes and Bakes. We have been here.
Forget that. That's right.
Exactly. You know, I get in trouble sometimes. We've been here. It'll be 9 years in September. So September 20th will be our 9th year anniversary. Like Dr. Talbert said, he's been coming for 8 years now, bringing tours. And when they first came, there has been definitely a shift in conversation from the beginning to now. When we first came, we were determined that people weren't going to be able to get our baked goods outside of Good Cakes and Bakes. We were not doing wholesale. We were not doing coffee shops or anything like that. And now that has become a large part of our revenue stream is wholesaling as well as nationwide shipping. So those things all took place starting in 2020. We started wholesaling right before the pandemic, and then mid-pandemic we started nationwide shipping as a way of reaching our customers who no longer was doing any traveling but still wanted to get our baked goods. So we are a bakery that focuses on baking and small batch baking, which means that we will not times our recipe more than 3 times the recipe, and the purpose of that is to make sure that we are continuing to the integrity of the ingredients that we're using for taste purposes. We never want to be a bakery that is focused on production baking where the baked goods no longer taste like they taste when your grandmother made them at home, because that was one of the reasons why we started Good Cakes and Bakes, is because we wanted to go back to how baked goods taste when they were made homemade at home. Your grandmother, your mother made them, and so that was one of the main reasons why we opened the bakery. And so we never want to sway away from our original core values, and so for that we continue to bake in small batch. Even though we're building out a production space, we still will continue to bake in small batching.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So you want to give us a little tour of the place?
Yeah. So pre-pandemic, all of this that you see was seating. So we're 2,300 square foot space, but pre-pandemic, only 182 square feet of that was dedicated to kitchen, to baking. The rest of it was dedicated to seating, so we had enough room for up to 77 people to sit inside the bakery at any given time. And currently, then during the pandemic, we closed for 1 month to do a remodel, where in that remodel, we went from 70 square foot of baking area to over 700 square feet of baking. So at one point only one person can bake, and now we can have up to 4 people baking at a time. And we also focus a lot more on, we did a whole interior design, so we changed the way the bakery looked, and along with the change of the way the bakery looked, it also changed the relationship that we had with the community, which is very interesting that it changed because of the way the bakery looked. It's so interesting when we see people come in and be like, oh, I used to come here before, and now I come here, and so it's a total different vibe in here. And it's so pretty, and we have people who say they come in and they're just so impressed and so excited to say that they have,
and comfortable.
Right, to say they have this bakery here, because they feel like this is something that would be in the suburbs. It's not what you was, they're so excited and happy to have something like this in their neighborhood, as they're saying. So we'll go around now, show you some of the things that have changed, and show you some of the things in the bakery. Right. So one thing is that when we were doing the design, it was a focus on trying to do a change of the flow, customer flow, when you come into the bakery. So usually people come in this door right here, and so the goal was to have you come in the door, come this way, and we wanted to focus a lot on our retail items. And so the goal is to have you come in, and as you walk over here to get to the baked goods, you're able to see our retail space, which in this retail space, we do a lot of focus on offering Black-owned women business products, as well as local products. But during the pandemic, we started wanting to offer more outside of the city of Detroit. products to people, still unique products that you can't find other places in the city of Detroit, but focusing on a lot more Black. So we have a few that are here, like we have Mrs. Pruitt, which is from Detroit. She was in Food Lab with us. She's just signed a deal with Myers, so she's in every Myers across the 3 states.
Food Lab, Davita Davis?
Davita Davis from Food Lab, correct. Yeah. This right here, which is a hot sauce, which is a young lady, she's like 22 years old, out of California. Great, it's like a hot sauce marinade. This is from an Indian lady who went to the University of Michigan. She now lives in Arizona, but this is her brand. It's a spice brand. But stuff like that, making sure that we are sourcing from people of color, and we try to make sure to try and have a Michigan-Detroit connection with our artists and vendors over here.
So how does this work now? Do you buy and resell, or you take a?
So we do. So it's a wholesale. So usually retail, when you do retail stuff, it's like a 50%.
Yeah.
So like, for example, we pay $4 for this and we sell it for $8.
Okay.
And that's usually how it is. So it's usually either 50 or 45 to 60% markup for when you do retail wholesale stuff, right?
I see you got some Detroit Food Academy stuff here,
Slow
Jams.
Yeah, Slow Jams. So not only does we have Slow Jams for retail, but we also use their jam inside the bakery too.
Oh, okay.
So we have 2. We have the vanilla peach bourbon, one that we use. So on the weekends we sell breakfast sandwiches, biscuit sandwiches. Yeah. So we have the jam for that, and then we have a spicy pepper jam as well. Okay. But they provide both of those. They provide it for retail and for wholesale.
Okay, that's cool.
Yes. And then we have a lot of our own merch, like our cups, because again, we are all about sustainability. So we have cups, a reusable cup, try and get people not to be using plastic, as well as not to be using disposable cups. So we sell these, and we give a discount if you buy this and you come back to get coffee in it. But the goal was, again, to have you come in one way and walk around, and you get to see other retail stuff outside of the baked goods. So you have a whole experience. You come in, you walk this way, you see baked goods over there, beverages, and then you get down here to the point where you're checking out. So it's like a whole experience, and all of that came from the design team when they were designing it. Like, ask us questions. And we like, why are they asking these questions? It was because they were trying to get a good flow, not only for customers, but also for employees. When they were doing it. So then if you walk this way, I'll show you. You can't come in the kitchen, but I'll still show you some of the kitchen.
All right. Go ahead.
So like, again, the kitchen used to be one little small area, and now you have this whole space here. So you can come this way. Whole kitchen space and then once we open the bakery back up for more use of customers to come in, these barn doors close. And so if you notice on not only the doors, but also on the walls right here, it's chicken wire. And so that was intentionally used in order to incorporate our Southern roots. Southern roots, chicken farm. So we wanted to make sure, even though we were doing a redesign, that we were also incorporating part of our mission, which is we're a Southern inspired bakery. I bake from roots of my grandparents, my parents, right? And so I never want to change that regardless to where we do. We always want to incorporate our history. And so one of those things was showing the southern part was chicken wires, and as well as making sure that we are educating further generations by making sure that we're having some history. So that's why you see those photos up there of Black leaders and ancestral leaders, making sure that we are focusing and showing that regardless to where and who comes into the bakery, they will know the history, that this is a Black-owned business, and that the history of it.
Yeah. What part of the South are your folks
Mississippi.
from? Okay.
Mississippi, Grenada, and Jackson area.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
My grandfather on my mother's side is from Yazoo City.
Oh, yes.
Mississippi.
So that is right by Grenada, because when we had one of our family reunions, we actually stayed in Yazoo City, and we went over to our family's farm. It was not even 30 or 35 miles from where we were at. So they right by each other. So I have heard of that city too.
My mother's folks are from Georgia, but in the later generation, but my grandfather was from Mississippi.
Okay, so my family's all from Mississippi, and a lot of them moved up here during the Great Migration to find work. So like my grandfather, my grandmother was 4 when they moved up here to Michigan, and so she's 96 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this gives it a country feel.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
So that was the goal when we did that. So then if you come back here, I'll show you part of our growth, which is shipping. So like today we have only 6 cakes that are going out. So this right here is our cakes that are going out today. And so we turned this space, so be careful when you walk right here. So we turned this space into our shipping. So in this space right here is where the cakes are stored in the freezer here, and so I'll show you how they look before they ship out. So if you can come see, I'll show you. So you'll see that the cake is put in the freezer to be frozen, and then it is wrapped. So we have to have it. It has to be. We created these collars because we ship layer cakes, and we wanted to make sure that when cake gets to you, it gets to you, and it still looks like you just got it from bakery. So we had these collars created, which goes around the cake like this, and then it goes into a box, and then it's shrunk wrap here, which is what you see here.
Yeah.
And then it has a lot number on it for us to be able to track it. So if something happens, we're able to track and figure out who got the cake. And then it goes into this box over here. And again, continuing with our sustainability, we have these, this is how we ship. We don't ship with styrofoam or anything like that. We ship with this, it's called green cell. So this right here can be washed. This can be dissolved in your sink. And it can go into the sewer system and it has no chemicals in it. It's made all of corn, so it just goes in. So you can just rinse it down in your sink and it dissolves.
Oh wow!
So this comes out of Lansing. It's made in Lansing, and it comes to us. So this in here we will put a block of dry ice. Then the pink box right there, the cake goes in there, and it goes in here, and it's closed up. And so it took us about 9 months for us to be able to figure out like how much dry ice we need in this box for the cake to come to California. So if it's 110 degrees in California, we know that we need to have 10 pounds of ice in here for it to get to California, because it still needs to be frozen when it gets to you. So to get to California, say you left it, they delivered it was on your porch for 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah. It's
still gonna be frozen in 100 degrees. You got to, when you bring it in, you'll be able to unwrap it, take the collar off while it's still frozen, because y'all want the reason of taking the collar off while it's frozen so that you don't lose no icing. And then you still have 2 to 3 hours for it to thaw out before it's ready to be eaten.
Yeah.
So then, like if we ship it to, for example, Ohio, you know we only need 4 pounds of ice. For it to get to Ohio, you can still have, the goal is when it gets to you, still have 2 to 3 hours of frozen time before it starts to thaw out. Yeah. So that took some time.
You had to work out all those details.
It took some time for us to figure it. It took a lot of errors for us to do, and we learned mainly from, in 2019, we were able to go on the Today Show in New York. And when we first was going on there, they asked us to do, it was for Mother's Day. So our biscuit recipe is from my great-great-grandmother. And so it's like over 125 years old, right? So it was like, can y'all make that? And I was like, oh, sure, we can do that. And then we would sell a mix. So you can buy the mix and make it at home. Well, when the producer came here to do some B-roll, she tried our lemon velvet cake. So she went back and they called us like, hey, when Michelle was here, she tried the lemon velvet cake, and we was wondering if y'all can make that. So of course you're gonna say yes, because Today Show, right? Yeah. I want to go. I said yes, and we hung up the phone. I was like, oh damn, we never shipped the whole cake. People are going to want that cake if that's the cake we make, right? So we was like, oh, we'll figure it out. 2 weeks. We had about 2 weeks. Well, we went on there, we got over 800 orders.
Oh my goodness.
Over 800 orders, and some people, so we went for Mother's Day, that Thursday we was on, people really thought they were gonna get the cake back before Sunday.
Yeah.
It was like, no, so we got back here on Monday after Mother's Day, and so we emailed people like, hey, would you like us to refund your money because you're not gonna get the cake, and if you do, we'll refund it. And if not, please give us like at least 60 days for you to get this cake. So some people was like refund. I think they had like 30 people who said refund or something. Yeah. Everybody else like, no, we'll wait.
Wow.
I was like, oh great. So now we have to figure out how to ship. So we had it. So again, how much do we charge? Because we can't go back and say that, oh, this is how much charge. So we was like, oh, it should cost no more than $40, $30 to ship the cake, right? So we charged $30 for shipping.
Yeah.
Got here, made the cake, tried to figure out how to ship it. ended up costing us, some orders was costing us $150
Oh,
just
my
to ship.
goodness.
So I can't go back to the customer and
Right.
say, oh, you owe me $120.
Yeah.
So we had to eat that cost, right?
Yeah. Oh my
So not only
goodness.
we had to eat that cost, but because we were still learning how to ship, we had some orders we had to remake and ship again.
Yeah.
So that ended up costing us more than we made.
Yeah.
So out of those, so we shipped maybe like 780 cakes. So out of those 780 cakes, I will say that maybe 35 of them were successfully received by the customer.
Wow.
The rest of those were either we had to remake or refund. So it ended up costing us maybe about $4,000, costing us $4,000.
Wow.
For a business that don't have $4,000 to spare to people, right? So not only was it a learning experience for us, it was very costly.
Yeah.
But it allowed us to, because now I really need to figure out how to do it. And so it allowed us to like keep figuring out how to do it. And so by the time the pandemic came in March of 2020, we had those collars made. We had figured out the boxes we were going to make, and we teamed up with Goldbelly to start shipping. And when we teamed up with them, we were thinking it was going to take a long time for people to figure out who we were. We're on the platform that people in Detroit know who we are, but not out of Detroit, right? The first day we went on there, we had said 12 cakes would be our max, so as we learned, because we didn't start shipping until after we did the remodel. Yeah. And the first day, we was at 12. They asked us to up the number. So by Christmas time, we started in October. By Thanksgiving, they said, can y'all up the number April? So we was like, okay, 35. Reached that the same day. So when I say 35, I mean 35 a day. Yeah. Then it was at 50 by Christmas. It's like 50. So we kept it at 50. In January, we moved it to 75. So by Christmas of 2021, Thanksgiving of 2021, we were doing 100 cakes a day.
Oh my goodness.
So right now we're at
profitably.
Yes, profit every cake. So we even had, so last year we had Oprah's team reached out to us to be one of her favorites. And so we had to ship cakes to them. And the only reason why we were unable to do it was because they require exclusivity, as well as Goldbelly require exclusivity. So we were unable to move forward with Oprah because we already had an agreement with Goldbelly. But one of the things that we learned, the Oprah was like, most people come to New York to make the cakes for them. Yeah. But we ship them. Yeah. And she's like, this was the prettiest cake she's ever received in the mail. Wow. She would thought that somebody went to a bakery down the street and got them. The lady said she kept asking us, like, these came from Detroit. And it's like, yes, she shipped them to us here from Detroit. She'd never received a cake that looked as nice as our cakes look coming in the mail. Wow. But that came from all of our trial and error, practicing how to do it.
That
so,
$4,000 lesson.
Exactly, right? Exactly. But when a person gets a cake from us, we know that they're going to get it and it's going to be the exact way that it leaves out of here. That's how they're going to receive it. And so because of our exponential great growth on Goldbelly, we are again in the process of building out a 5,000 square foot space, and we're doing that for the purpose of shipping. Shipping cakes. So we have a demand currently that we could probably get to about 250 cakes a day if we up the number. We have no place for 250 cakes to go in here. So we have to keep it at 100. Wow. But if we were in a new space, we could probably do a minimum of 250 cakes a day.
So this Goldbelly outfit, this is the place that blew up during the pandemic, where they will ship stuff from any restaurant in the country to.
And so even before the pandemic, so we had reached, it's so funny because we reached out to Goldbelly maybe like in March of 2019 and didn't hear anything from them. But then the day after we were on the Today Show, they reached out to us. It was like, hey, we saw y'all on Today Show yesterday. We were wondering if you're interested in being on our platform. I was like, oh, so interesting because I reached out to y'all 3 months ago. And I have not heard. I was like, yes. So during all of our mix-up with our own personal shipping, we were working with a representative from Goldbelly to get shipping. So working with this guy is what made us come up with the fact that maybe if y'all put a collar around it, and we had a 10-inch box, because that's what we use in the bakery, is a 10-inch box. He was like, maybe if y'all made a smaller box so the cake didn't have time to root and didn't have space to move around, that we could do it. So it was like all these things from working with them and eras of shipping. But then, we got into the busy of the holiday here, so we could not, we didn't move forward with Goldbelly at that time. And it wasn't until the pandemic happened, and then he reached back out to us in maybe July or August of 2020. And he was like, hey, April, just wondering if you guys got, I said, we totally got it figured out. And so he was like, send me a couple tests. We said, he's like, oh, y'all got everything down. So he was ready to move forward then, but I was like, no, we're in the process now of redesigning the bakery. So, because I know, you remember how small that area was that we baked out of? Only one person can bake in there. I was like, we can't do that with only one person baking. And I said, so after we do the remodel, that we would be willing to move forward. And so we did. And it was so interesting because when we had to shut down indoor dining during the shelter in place, we never closed the bakery. So we were never closed. People couldn't come inside the bakery, but we were still baking and producing. And one of the main reasons why is because even pre-pandemic, we knew because of where we were located in the city of Detroit, not in that 7.2 miles, that we needed to be able to get to our customer. We couldn't expect them to come to us. So we had a website already. We had the first delivery truck. Remember, we had that truck since 2016. So all we did was a little bit of marketing, like, hey, we already offer delivery. We can deliver to your house. We can deliver to you, to your kids. So we already had that. And so when a lot of other bakeries had to close down, we were still open. So for 6 to 7 weeks, we were the only bakery open in the city of Detroit. Because everybody else had to close to figure out, like, how do I reach my customers? They can't come into our space. Some people ain't leaving their house. So how do we get to them? So they had to get websites, because a lot of people they had a website, but it was a website that didn't have an e-commerce site on it. So you can order, you could just go look at stuff, and you can email them. But we already had an e-commerce site, as well as we already had the logistics for delivery. So a lot of people had to get onto third-party apps, which we didn't have to do that because we already had the logistics for that. So while people were figuring that out, we were able to pivot just a little bit with our marketing. And so because we were the only bakery open, we garnered a larger footprint as far as a footprint in the city of Detroit with bakeries and customers. And as well as online, because people who couldn't come to the city wanted to still be able to send their family member. We still had a lot of kids who were here in the city for school, but might not have been living on campus, but still had apartments and stuff here. And their parents wanted to be able to say, hey, it's your birthday, let me send you something. So they were able to Google us and say, oh, y'all deliver. Can you make a cake and take it to my son? It's his birthday tomorrow. Can you deliver it to him, since I'm unable to be there? So we were able to garner a larger footprint inside the city, but also online, because if you Googled, we were the only place coming up for delivery. As far as baked goods. So that helped us a lot as well.
Okay. Well, I got a couple more questions to ask you, but I want to ask them out front. So there's only 2 things that I would like to know at this point. One goes back and one goes forward. So the first thing is, what motivated you to do this in the first place, to start this whole...
So I've always loved to bake, And so technically, when it first started, I went back to, 2 things is that I was reading a magazine in 2009, and it was talking about cake decorating. And they said you could do cake decorating at a craft store. I was like, what is a craft store? I was like, oh, that's like Michael's. So I started taking cake decorating classes at Michael's, and so we baked the cake on Sunday, and we took the cake to class on Monday, and they taught you how to decorate it. And I want to say by the 6th class, I realized it wasn't the cake decorating that I enjoyed. I enjoyed making the cake before the class. But at that time, I was making, a lot of the cakes was being made from cake mixes. Because I didn't know I knew how to make a few things from scratch. And so then I started following a bunch of food blogs. And on those food blogs, I was like, I want to do a food blog, but I need to know why use the baking powder opposed to baking soda. So I'm a person who likes to know everything or something. So I actually started looking into going back to school for pastries to do a purpose of doing a food blog, not to open up a bakery. And it wasn't until I was in classes, I want to say it was my menu planning and cost control class, I was like, maybe I should open up a bakery and do this every day. And in my head, I was thinking I was going to be able to work the hours I want to work, right? Bake the things I want to bake that I want to enjoy. And so when we first started, then I was close to end of classes, and I went to Michelle and I was like, hey, I want to quit my job and open up a bakery. She was like, have you lost your mind?
Were you at Chrysler? Where were you?
I was at New Center at that time. I had already left Chrysler, but I was we had only been married for 7 months. So to say, okay, you want to quit your job to start a bakery. So we didn't talk about it. She's like, we'll talk about it later. We didn't talk about it. So I came home and said, hey, I gave him a 2-week notice. So my last day of work was technically like the first day. I left work, I went, cleaned up my desk, and we did our very first pop-up, which was down the street. And so up until that point, I had never sold to people. I had only baked for like friends and family. And of course, you know, they don't eat it and say it's good. And then they might go home like, what the hell did you feed me? Right? They're not gonna tell me. So up until then, and then we applied for, they had RFP, they had grant money over here from Our Place America to open up. And it was to do pop-ups as well as permanent spaces. So we applied and we won to do a permanent space. But when we first started, we didn't bake here. Again, I was part of Food Lab, and we had just got grant money at Food Lab to do a commercial kitchen, because at that time we were, literally the day that we announced that we were opening was the day that the city of Detroit filed the bankruptcy, the largest bankruptcy in municipal history, municipal in the U.S. The largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history. So people was like, have you lost your mind? You're leaving your job and your city going bankrupt. But it was like any other thing, there's always, you know, there's recessions, and Detroit was going through a recession at the time. But during that time, Black people are very creative when it comes to taking care of your family, and there was a lot of people who were like selling dinners, making jams and stuff, and selling them. And then also Whole Foods was just opening here in Detroit, and they were in the process of, and one of the conditions was that they would have more local artisans in there. So in order to do that, you have to be out of a commercial kitchen. Detroit didn't have any commercial kitchens at the time. You either had to go to Culinary Studios, which is in Southfield, and it was like $22 an hour, or you had to go to Howell, Michigan. So being part of Food Lab, we were like, maybe we should get grant money so that we can do kitchens here. So what was easiest for us was to get kitchens that were like in churches, because churches are already usually licensed from the state, because they either do like dinners for homeless,
repasts,
and all that, right, for funerals and stuff, right? So they're already a licensed commercial kitchen. So reached out to some of the churches and was like, hey, if we gave some type of subsidizing, would you allow food artisans to come in here and use your space, get licensed in your space to make their artisan? They was like, yeah. So we actually, Good Cakes and Bakes was the first food business in the city of Detroit to be licensed in a shared kitchen. The inspector did not know how to do it, didn't know what he should be asking. My inspection was like 2 minutes. Where other people after me had spent hours, because he wanted you to bake, he wanted you to make something, he wanted to see you package it. He didn't know the questions to ask. We were the first people in the city to be licensed. So when we first baked, we baked out of a commercial kitchen. And we brought everything over here. So we would go there from 3 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock in the morning, bake everything and bring it over here. Me and my mother would sell it until 8 o'clock. So that's how it started. That's how we started over here. And at that time, I want to say like after the first year, that's when you guys start coming. We had just started baking here, and you know, we had this idea, like when we first opened, I had this meeting, like only on Wednesdays we're gonna only have cookies. On Thursdays we only have cupcakes, we're only gonna have cake slice on this day. Customers like, have y'all lost your mind? You can't do this, you gotta have all these things every day. So then it like totally changed our model again. So we have definitely changed our model over the years to pivot and meet the demand of customers. Like vegan was not an option at first. So I felt like everything should have butter and eggs in it. Everything's no purpose to have it if it doesn't have butter and eggs. But people in the community asked for vegan, so we learned how to make vegan, which is a large part of our market now. It's like 65% of things that we offer a vegan counterpart to it.
And then you do gluten-free
so
also?
So we do gluten-free as well. We only offer one thing in store all the time, but anything we make vegan, we offer it as an option to be made gluten-free as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other question, obviously, you know, you've grown a lot, you've had a lot of success. What would you say is the biggest challenge you're facing right now for the business?
One of our biggest challenges is actually staffing. And that is because of our growth so fast. Pre-pandemic, we had 5 employees. Since the pandemic, we've had as many as 16 employees at one time. And now we're down to 8 employees. And 6 of those employees is in the kitchen. And the other 2 are retail. Definitely continue to constantly need retail staff. And one of the problems is that people want more flexibility they want to be off more than they want to work. And it's impossible to have that type of flexibility when we have limited hours. We're not open 24 hours a day. We're open Wednesday through Saturday
Yeah.
from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. So I'm not sure how much flexibility we can have with people, but that has been a challenge as far as finding staff, and a lot more with retail than with the kitchen, because in the kitchen we're actually baking 24 hours a day. So we have 3 shifts. We have a shift that goes from 6 o'clock to 2 o'clock, from 3 o'clock until 10 o'clock, and from 11 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the morning. So 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, the kitchen is working.
Yeah.
So we definitely have more flexibility for a person. If you want to be an overnight baker, we have a lady who she really enjoys it because she's able to be at home in the morning with her kids. Her husband's at work.
Yeah.
He gets home from work. She gets to come to work, and by the time he leaves for work in the morning, she's back home.
Yeah.
So she enjoys overnight baking. And we have 2 people in the morning, 2 people in the afternoon. So baking is definitely that's easier, but retail is what we have the hard. So that definitely has been our challenge, is being fully staffed.
Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate you accommodating us for the last
definitely.
8 years, and it's
definitely.
been really great seeing how your business has grown and changed over the years.
Yeah.
And look forward to coming back with the students on October 1st,
Yes.
and to having you be one of the businesses that
definitely.
the students are working with this
Yeah,
fall.
definitely. Can't wait. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Enjoy. Thank you.